Hello. I want to look at the Corona One app again. That's the COVID-19 contact tracing app for Germany. It's open source, it's on GitHub, and I think you should see the link this time somewhere over there that points to the repository if you want to take a look too. And I also mentioned the issue I would love to work on today, and that's issue 321. That's this one. The last time I looked at the app on stream, we saw that there was a comment in the code that mentioned that they wanted to create a build flavor where they mock the exposure notification API. So the app works with an API that the Google Play services provide. All the Bluetooth functionality, tracking who you met and when and where, that's done by the Google API. And you need to be whitelisted to use this API. And from what I read, Google only whitelists one official app per country. So if you want to contribute to the app, this means you can build the app, but you cannot use the API. So it's very limited in what you can actually do with your local build. So the idea that the comment in the code mentioned was, hey, let's mock this API and then we can, for testing purposes, do whatever. And this apparently has never happened. And today I just wanted to give it a try and maybe can build a simple version of that and then later make it better depending on what we need. So I actually didn't update the repository yet, so maybe we should start with that. Let's take a quick look. If I'm pulling from the right repository. Yeah, that's the official one. And then let's take a look. I did take a peek earlier today and I saw that the team actually introduced a new build type or flavor. Let's see. A product flavor. Device for testers. And from this block of Gradle config, it looks like this is mostly for configuring a different set of server URLs. So I guess that for local development, you can use your own local verification server. And maybe can try to add a mock API to this device for testers build variant. And then we could use this variant locally with custom servers if you actually want to, and maybe a mocked Google Play API. So let's maybe try actually building this, and I might need to Gradle sync first. All right, let's see. Device for testers debug. Let's see if we can launch this. Last time the app crashed immediately if you were not able to use the Google Play Services API, which of course is not super nice if you want to like contribute anything. Let's see if it launches this time. I guess while Gradle does the initial build, which always takes a while, I can set up Git to use my fork as well. Git remote, and then I will remove the origin. I usually set up my own repository as origin and then the actual project is upstream. Let's quickly do this before we start writing any code. Not sure if you can read the terminal on the stream. I try to only stream a small part of my screen so that it's not super tiny. Okay, cool. And Gradle is also done on installing the app. Okay. At least it's now launching and then of course showing this error because yeah, we are not allowed to use the API. And looks like now we can at least get into the app, but you will see this dialog all the time. And I guess once we are able to mock the API, this will go away because our mocked API will just pretend everything is fine. So let's see. The last time we saw that all the access of this nearby API is hidden behind this internal exposure notification client class. So all the code that uses the API actually only accesses it through this object, and the actual Google Play API is returned by this get call, which returns an exposure notification client, and that's already an interface. So in our mock version, we can write a different version of that. And last time we already hacked something together and that worked fine. And now we can try to make this a little bit nicer and move this to maybe this build variant only. So to do that, I guess we will need to move this creation of the client maybe behind some factory class for now, and then in the build variant we could try to have a different implementation of that. That's maybe a good start. Let's maybe try this. Let's see. Where's this? This is in a nearby package, so maybe let's start by creating an exposure notification client factory. And I guess what I want to try is to use the override functionality of build variants, that we can have two implementations of this factory. And depending on which build variant you build, a different one is used. Can we actually get rid of this? Okay. And I guess in the simplest version we could just start by having something like this. Create client function, and it returns the actual nearby API in this case. So oops. So this is all the same. Now we just moved the actual creation of the instance to this factory class. And now let's try to have two versions of that. And actually not sure. Here, there's already code only for this device for testers version. Now let's create a nearby package. And then let's create a placement exposure notification client factory. Okay, let's use the same. Oh yeah, this one is inside the main package, and this override only works if we have one in the device for testers and one in the device one. You can't have one in the main package and override this, unfortunately. See, can we? I'm not sure if you can create another source folder here, because otherwise I guess we will just do it here. Source. Oh, there's already a device folder actually. All right, this means we can take this from here, from main. Switch the build variant. Okay, now here's the device package. We need a new package in the device flavor only. And that's it's a package name nearby, right? Okay. And then let's create a factory class here too. And dump the code from. Okay, now we have one in the device for testers and one in the device one. The device one just returns the normal Google Play API client, and the device for testers one now 2. And we will replace this with a mock, but let's first run this. And now we can get rid of the import here. Okay, cool. It is still running and it's still trying to use the Google API, which of course does not work. Let's see, how do we want to do this? As for now, we could start with a separate class, just implements this interface. And let's see, it is the last time. What was again the API for that, for creating tasks objects? I already forgot. There was some nice helper that you could call task from, something like that. Can't see it in the task class itself. Does anyone in the chat remember from last time? Tasks, that's a good point. Yeah, tasks, that sounds familiar. Yeah, thank you very much. That would have taken a while. And yeah, let's say we are enabled provide diagnosis key. Remember that you could use null here, and exposure summary. Let's see, should we mock this? It's a final class with a bunch of parameters. Let's see if download source works here, because that is obfuscated. Download sources? No. Choose sources? No, I don't have any local. Let's try null for now. Return tasks for result null. And stop. Get exposure information needs exposure information. Also use null, and get API key. Oh, that's what did we do here last time? Maybe just throw. I just want to get it working right now. I'm not sure if this will get called at all. Get temporary exposure key history. Return tasks for result. Mutable list. Okay. Can return empty list. And then we want to return our mock client here. All right, let's see what this does. All right, that is launching. Bluetooth is turned off. Yeah, I'm actually not sure if an emulator can at least pretend to have Bluetooth. I could also deploy it to a device, but it might be complicated to actually show this on screen for the stream. Let's see. But at least has the Bluetooth setting here. Let's see, how do I actually enable Bluetooth? The notification, I guess. Okay. No Bluetooth. I need to check on my device. Where is it in the settings? I actually can't find it on my device in the settings. I only see it in a notification tray. See if I have a test device that can connect. They are not charged. How can we get around this? I guess we could try to mock this too, but I would love to just keep that as is. Maybe we can deploy it to my phone. Let's see. Okay, let's get rid of the emulator. Okay, this is my phone. Make smaller. Is this here? All right. Yeah, looks like this might work. Let's try deploying to my phone. See how it behaves on my phone. Oh, dark mode. Okay, that looks better. Now it pretends to be active. That is nice. And let's try returning false here. Let's see if this looks different. Yeah, nice. Now it stopped. And can activate here, but it's still not activated because we always return false. That is nice. We could try to mock this a little bit more, like some enabled boolean here. And let's say it's false, and we return the boolean here. And someone called start, we enable it, and stop, we disable it. Let's see if this is already working. Okay, it's disabled. Enabled. Nice. I saw that somewhere in the code for this new device for testers, they have this test for API fragment. And I would love to maybe expose some toggles there too that we can then use to control our mock, because at some point we might want to have a more elaborate mock that can also send exposure information, for example. But I'm not sure how this fragment actually gets shown, so let's try to figure that out. Just in this nav graph. Test for API fragment. Let's see if we can find this here. Main fragment to test for API fragment. This from the main fragment. Let's see. Directions. Oh, I see. The main fragment is a different main fragment here. Okay, let's go back to the screen. Is this maybe? Oh, test API. Interesting. That might be this test fragment. Okay. What's the other one? Test risk level. Okay, that's probably because we didn't completely mock the API yet. Let's see if we can mock some more of those things. Get exposure summary. Let's try to actually understand what those classes contain. And let's see, is there actually public documentation of this somewhere? Not in the Android docs. Let's see, exposure notifications. Okay, EF document. Data structures. Exposure summary. The number of days since the last match to a diagnosis key. Number of matched diagnosis keys. The highest risk score of all exposures. An array that contains the sum of all durations in minutes for all exposures. Okay. And exposure information. Oh, that's the next one here. Stores information about an interaction with another device. It stores the day that the interaction occurred. Okay. What we could try maybe is, not sure how this risk is getting calculated. Maybe we can try to mock it in a way that we can control what kind of risk is getting showed here. And for that, let's see how the API is getting used, I guess. Start and stop and provide key, get history, get summary. See where this is used. Okay, check exposure. That is the test. That is happening in a worker. Risk level transaction. Sounds interesting. Actually, I think we should maybe make it more obvious whenever things are getting used here. We could log it, and I think at least right now, to figure out how things work, it might make sense to just show toasts whenever something is getting used here. And for that we will need the context here too. Which means we need to pass this in here and get it here. Let's see, do we actually have a context? No, that's an object. Okay, maybe just use logging then. I want to refactor all of that, especially if this is going to get used somewhere. So let's just use super simple logging for now. I wonder if any of the other methods get used when we just launch the app. Then we can work from there backwards. It's a little bit reverse engineering, but I guess that's fine. Right. Let's open a lock. Oh, build failed. Oh. All right. So enabled is getting called and you wait it. Start is getting called and then it is enabled, probably to update the UI. Nice. Nothing else right now. Test risk level. Okay, the risk level is calling get exposure summary. So let's try to return something here. Okay, that is okay. Exposure summary itself is of course not accessible, at least the constructor. Can't see this here. go back to this PDF, exposure summary. Okay, that's with the days and so on. It exposes this creator, but that is from a parcel. I'm not sure if we want to actually fake a parcel and then create an exposure summary from there. That sounds awkward. Oh, there's an exposure summary builder. That sounds more like something we would like to use. Yeah, nice. Okay. Does this have nice methods? Yeah. Okay. Durations as an int array. Whatever that means. Let's see. Yeah, that's the array. An array that contains the sum of all durations in minutes for all exposures for 3 ranges of radio signal. Okay. Array with 2 indexes. Oh, that's weird API. Index 1, sum of durations for all exposures that is in minutes. Okay, let's just pretend that is 50 minutes, and then sum of durations for all exposures when it was greater than or equal. Okay, that was 785. No, probably less. 10. And index 2, sum of durations for all exposures was greater. Make this 5. And that's probably a bunch of values that would be nice to set up in this test fragment. And you can configure what the API should return. Okay, what's the problem here? Required int array, found array int. Int array of course. Okay, what's the next one? Thank you for following 02 on 3. The days since last exposure. Let's say it's 1 day, and else matched key count. What does this mean? Number of matched diagnosis keys. Let's say we matched 1 key. And what's next? Maximum risk score. The highest risk score of all exposure incidents. The problem is that I'm not sure what kind of values this expects. Let's see if this document some kind of information. Exposure configuration. Okay. That seems like something that the app provides. So let's see if this is used somewhere in the app. Exposure configuration, here it is. Okay, it looks like the actual app gets its exposure configuration from some kind of server, so we can't, at least right now, we can't use some values that they set up in the app. So let's pretend the score is 7. No clue if this makes any sense. And then there's a summation risk score. Let's get back to this document. What was the name? Summary. And we are looking at summation risk score. A summation of all risk scores of all exposures. This was the highest. It's a summation of all. Say 10. I think that's all the methods here. Okay, let's see if this does anything to the app. Okay, activate. And go to the test. Calculate risk level. See it. Ask for summary. Actually filter by package name here. Ask for the summary, but it here 11750. Yeah, that's exactly what we returned. And then risk score unknown risk. Okay, the duration is 0 days, obviously. Oh, and here we can see the formula it used. That's quite nice. Oh, and it actually returned what kind of configuration is. I guess we can use this to tweak our numbers a bit. Low is max 15, high is 72. Let's see. Let's return 50 here. This is 70. Let's see if this changes anything. Not sure if the days matter here. Wait. Okay, and now let's calculate the risk level. It asks for a summary. Unknown risk initial, unknown risk initial. Calculated score is 70 now. I wonder if the tracing duration is 0, if that is causing the unknown risk here. Let's see if we can figure that out. Calculate risk level. This calls risk level transaction start. Start. Check unknown risk initial. That is what we are running into, probably. Okay, let's see if we get rid of this here. Does this change anything? That's definitely the result we got here. An exception occurred during risk level calculation. Okay, now apparently it's calculating something, and the data we returned is probably kind of wrong. Time since last exposure calculation is null. Inline 294. 294. Oh, one class. 294. Time since last diagnosis key fetch from server. Yeah, this returns. Okay. Extracts null. Is this you're running it too? Time since last exposure calculation. Okay, let's go back to our day since last exposure is 0, which may conflict with tracing being enabled for 0 days. Yeah. Let's see if we say 0 here. Let's change anything. No. Okay, let's go back. Let's turn that back on. Okay, what happens if we pretend there is a different time? The last time we fetched from the server. Let's make this an actual timestamp. Timestamp. Let's see what this does. Okay. Run into another exposure summary is not persisted. Let's see if we can find out where this is coming from. Exposure summary is not persisted. Local data Google API token. Local data. Okay. At some point it saves some API token. Hey, this one definitely gets. Okay, now it got some data. Does change anything here? No. But it shows now risk unknown and updated in 70. Okay, let's reset the faking here. And the actual date again. And then go back to this here. Oops, now the whole app crashed. Okay, maybe we corrupted the data. Let's uninstall it. Package name again. And reinstall. Okay, nice. That is working again. The test API. No, not test API, the other screen. First risk level. Okay. It definitely retrieved our values. But it doesn't fetch anything from the server, and so the risk calculation doesn't seem to actually come up with a result, except for unknown, because it was not enabled long enough. Hey, Kitty. I'm not sure how to continue from here. Our mock is returning some data, but I don't know enough about how this is used and what the values actually mean, because the document doesn't say much about the values. Could try to figure out if we can make it fetch from the server. Let's see, this might be happening. Okay. This transaction seems to perform the fetch. Let's look a little bit into this class. Execute setup, execute token. Who's calling start on this, for example? Okay, the test fragment should be this one. There's a refresh keys method. Risk card button update. Oh wow. How did it actually change? Did it just take a while? This looks like now it's based on the data we mocked. Because we entered one exposure and I think 1 day ago, is this correct? Yeah, 1 day ago. Oh yeah, now it actually fetched something from the server. Nice. So this is actually working. Not sure why it took so long to actually perform the fetch. Okay, nice. Let's go back to the log. Fetch the summary. It did not ask for exposure information or this API key function or the history. Let's see if we can figure out where this is getting called. And for that we need to go back to this internal client. And then see where is this client getting used. So the summary, that's what we mocked. Temporary exposure key history. Okay. Let's remember with the comment which methods are actually getting used. Is enabled. Yeah, we already mocked this. Provide keys. This one. Start and stop. Okay, this means this one is not actually getting used. See? Oh, it is. But only in the test fragment. Get exposure information. Let's see if we can trigger this from the test fragment. Maybe once we scan the code, but we don't have a test code. All right, so this gets used too. Does anyone call get API key actually? No. Okay. Just always throw in that case. So I wonder if we should create another test fragment. Like they already have one for testing the API, for testing the risk level, and we could create one for controlling the mock API maybe. So that you can configure what kind of exposure summary and exposure information it should return. And I assume we could just save this maybe in chat preferences or whatever. All right. I feel like that's enough for today. I might start cleaning this up a little bit and we'll post something to this issue that is mentioned bottom, issue 321 on the official Corona app repository. All right. Thank you everyone for watching. Have a good day or night wherever you are. See you on the internet, on Twitter or on Twitch.